The diamond on her finger felt like a shackle. Emma Collins sat in front of the mahogany table, her trembling hands folded neatly on her lap. The city lights shimmered through the glass walls of Hunter Enterprises, but nothing sparkled brighter or colder than Liam Hunter's gray eyes. He leaned back in his leather chair. Every inch the ruthless billionaire, who just bought himself a bride. Her father's voice cracked as he signed the final paper. "Thank you, Mr. Hunter, for saving my company." Liam didn't smile. "You know the price." Emma's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. She'd never been kissed, never even been on a real date, and now she was being traded like currency. For her father it was survival, for Liam she wasn't sure. Power, revenge, or something darker hidden behind that perfectly calm face. When he finally stood, the room seemed smaller. His height, his broad shoulders, the slow, measured way he walked toward her. It all screamed, "Danger, stand up, Emma." Her voice barely worked. "Why, yes, Mr. Hunter." "Liam," he corrected smoothly. "You're my wife now. You'll say my name when you speak to me." Her throat tightened. She whispered, "Liam." His eyes darkened. "Good girl." He reached out, brushing his thumb along her jawline, tilting her chin up until she had no choice but to meet his gaze. "You don't have to fear me," he said lowly, "but you will obey me." Emma's lips parted in shock. "Why me?" She breathed. He smirked, "Slow, dangerous, devastating, because innocence is rare and I don't share what's mine." He turned toward the window, his reflection framed by the glowing skyline. "The wedding's tomorrow. You'll wear white even though by tomorrow night it won't stay white for long." Her cheeks flushed scarlet. He looked back over his shoulder, voice dropping into a warning that made her knees weak. "When I take you, Emma," he murmured, stepping close enough for her to feel his breath, "you'll remember every inch of me, every single one of them." And just like that, her life, her freedom, her innocence belonged to him. The ceremony had been flawless. All elegance, no love. Emma stood in the grand penthouse suite, her lace wedding gown still hugging her frame, the scent of roses and champagne still lingering from the reception below. The city glittered beyond the glass walls, but her heart felt heavy, uncertain. When the door clicked shut, she knew they were finally alone. Liam loosened his tie, his movement slow, deliberate. "You look beautiful," he said, his deep voice echoing in the stillness. "Almost too beautiful for your own good." Emma swallowed hard, fingers clutching the edge of her gown. "You don't have to pretend to be kind, Liam," she whispered. "We both know what this marriage is." He paused, his sharp gray eyes softening for the first time. "And what do you think it is?" "A transaction," she said. "My father's debt and your revenge." A faint smile touched his lips. "Not cruel, but bittersweet. You're smarter than I thought." He stepped closer, stopping only inches from her. "But there's one thing you're wrong about." Her breath caught. "What's that?" He reached up and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, his touch surprisingly gentle. "This may have started as a deal, sweetheart," he murmured, "but nothing about the way I look at you is pretend." Emma's chest fluttered with confusion. He was dangerous, she knew that. But when he looked at her like that, her world tilted. Liam's gaze dropped to her trembling lips. For a heartbeat, she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he leaned close enough for her to feel his breath and whispered, "You have no idea what you do to me, Emma, but I'll wait until you're ready to know." Her pulse raced as he stepped back, loosening his cufflinks. "You'll sleep in here tonight," he said quietly. "Not because I can't take what's mine, but because I want you to want it, too." She watched him walk toward the balcony, the night air stirring his dark hair as he looked out over the city. For the first time, she saw not just a billionaire with power, but a man carrying secrets. And her heart whispered something she didn't dare believe. Maybe danger could feel like destiny, The days that followed were a blur of luxury and silence. Emma wandered through the EA-gilded cage. Her husband was gone most mornings, attending meetings commanding boa marble halls of Liam's penthouse, surrounded by everything money could buy. Yet she felt trapped in Sidram's ruling empires, but every night she felt his presence before she even heard the door open. He never touched her, not once, but his eyes did. At dinner, he'd sit across from her, sleeves rolled up, watch glinting under the soft light. His gaze lingered too long on her lips, her throat, the curve of her shoulder. Every time she looked up, he was already watching. And every time he spoke her name, her heartbeat lost its rhythm. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked one evening, his voice low and patient. Emma hesitated. "I don't know," she admitted. "You make it hard to breathe sometimes." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe I should stop looking at you that way." But he didn't. When she tried to avoid his gaze, he leaned forward, his tone soft but commanding. "Emma, look at me," she did, and it felt like falling. Something in her shifted that night. She started to notice the man behind the suit. The quiet sighs when he thought she wasn't listening. The way his hand tightened around his glass when she smiled. Beneath his confidence, she glimpsed loneliness, raw and unguarded. One evening, she found him in his study, staring at an old photograph of a younger man who looked hauntingly like him. She lingered at the door. "Who is that?" she asked softly. He turned, caught off guard. "My brother," he said. "He's gone now." Her voice softened. "I'm sorry." His eyes held hers for a long time, and something inside him cracked open. "Don't be," he murmured. "He'd have liked you." That night, she couldn't sleep. His words replayed in her mind. Not because of what he said, but how he said it. For the first time, Emma didn't just feel like a wife by contract. She felt like someone who mattered. And when the morning sun brushed across her skin, she realized the truth. Liam Hunter was no longer just her husband. He was becoming the one man she couldn't stop wanting. Rain whispered against the glass walls that night, the city below glowing like scattered stars. Emma stood in the kitchen barefoot in one of Liam's shirts, soft, oversized, and smelling faintly of his cologne. She told herself it was just comfortable, that she wasn't secretly drawn to the man whose presence filled every inch of the penthouse. But when he walked in, hair damp, shirt unbuttoned halfway, her pulse betrayed her. Liam paused when he saw her. A quiet smile curved his lips. "Didn't realize my shirt had found a new owner." She flushed, tugging the fabric closer. I was cold. Were you?" His voice dipped low, teasing but unreadable. "Because you look like fire standing there." Emma turned away, pretending to focus on the steaming mug of tea. "You shouldn't say things like that," she murmured. He stepped closer, his reflection merging with hers in the glass. "Why not? Because it confuses me." Liam's tone softened. "Sweetheart, I think you were already confused the moment you said I do." She spun to face him, trying to sound angry, but her voice came out quiet. "You act like you know everything about me." He leaned down close enough for her to feel his breath. "I know you're trying to understand what this is," he said, "and I know you feel it too." "Feel what?" she whispered. He tilted his head slightly, eyes locked on hers, deep searching, that pull, that want. Her lips parted, but no words came. He smiled faintly like a man who already had his answer. "You want me, don't you?" He murmured. The air between them pulsed. Emma's heart raced, and for a fleeting second, she thought she might say yes. But then she turned away, whispering, "You shouldn't ask questions you already know the answer to." Liam let out a low chuckle, half amusement, half restraint, maybe, but I needed to hear it anyway. When he finally walked past her, his hand brushed hers, just a whisper of touch, but it lingered like a spark. Emma stood frozen long after he'd gone, her heart betraying her silence because deep down she knew he was right. She did want him more than she could ever admit. The storm came without warning. Wind howled against the glass, lightning cutting through the dark sky as if the world itself were trembling. Emma stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the city blur beneath sheets of rain behind her. The low crackle of the fireplace was the only warmth in the room until she heard the door open. Liam stepped in, soaked from rain, hair plastered to his forehead. He'd been out for hours. The driver insisted I stay at the office, he said quietly, shrugging off his coat. But I couldn't. She turned startled. Why not? His eyes locked on hers. Because you were here. The word struck something deep inside her. She wanted to speak, but her throat was tight, her heart even tighter. He crossed the room in slow, deliberate steps, his voice softened. You've been running from what's between us, Emma, but tell me, has it gone away? She shook her head before she even realized it. No. Liam's breath hitched just barely, then stopped pretending it's wrong. She took a shaky step back, then stopped. Her back met the wall. He stopped too. Close enough for her to feel the heat radiating from him, but still giving her space. His restraint was louder than any touch could have been. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. You terrify me, and you make me feel alive all at once. He reached out, brushing his fingers down her arm, tracing fire along her skin. You don't have to know how, he said. You just have to trust me. The thunder outside roared, but the silence between them was louder. When she finally met his gaze, something unspoken passed between them. A surrender, a beginning. Emma's hand rose slowly, resting against his chest. His heart beat hard beneath her palm. I'm not afraid anymore, she whispered. Liam closed his eyes as though her words undid something inside him. Then I'll never give you a reason to be. For the first time, she leaned into him, not as his wife by contract, but as the woman who had finally chosen him. And when his arms came around her, she knew it wasn't possession anymore. It was love beginning to bloom in the storm. It began with small things, a phone call unanswered, a driver who appeared outside every time Emmy tried to walk alone. A quiet but firm reminder from Liam, text me when you leave, always. At first she thought it was care. Then she realized it was control, soft, spoken but ironclad. Since the night of the storm, everything between them had changed. Liam was gentler but more intense. He took her to dinners overlooking the skyline, brushed his hand over hers like it was the most natural thing in the world, and looked at her as if she were the only thing that mattered. But with that tenderness came something else, a possessiveness that ran deep. One evening, they attended a charity gala. Emma wore a flowing black dress that shimmered under the chandeliers. Liam couldn't take his eyes off her until another man did. A young executive approached her, polite smile in place, asking for a dance. Before Emma could answer, Liam's hand closed around hers. She's not available. His voice was calm, but his grip said otherwise. The man backed off quickly, and the room fell into an uneasy hush. Later in the car, Emma turned to him. You embarrassed me. Liam's jaw tightened. I protected you from what? A conversation. She snapped. I'm not a possession, Liam. His eyes darkened, pain flickering there. You think that's what this is? I don't know anymore. The silence that followed was sharp as glass. When they got home, he poured himself a drink, staring out the window. I've lost too much, Emma. He said quietly, everyone I've ever cared about has been taken from me. I can't. He stopped, voice cracking for the first time. I can't lose you too. Her anger faded into ache. She stepped closer, placing her hand over his. You won't, she whispered. But you have to let me breathe. He turned, searching her face. Then he nodded once, slow and heavy, as if it cost him everything. For you, I'll try. That night when he held her, there was no command in his touch, only need. And in that fragile, quiet, Emma realized his obsession wasn't born from dominance. It came from fear, fear of loving her too much to ever let go. The truth came quietly, like a whisper behind a closed door. Emma hadn't meant to overhear. She was on her way to Liam's study with his coffee when she stopped short. Inside, she heard two voices, Liam's low and sharp, and another man she didn't recognize. "You got what you wanted," the man said. "Collins signed over the company. Isn't that enough?" Liam's reply was cold, clipped. "Not yet. He cost my brother his life, and I don't forgive easily." Emma froze. His brother, the cup trembled in her hand. She didn't hear the rest, only the weight of that one sentence echoing in her chest. The marriage, the contract, the distance in his eyes, it all made sense now. She left the tray on the floor and walked away before either man saw her. Her heart pounded as she stumbled into the elevator, the walls closing in. When Liam came home that night, she was waiting, standing by the window where it had all begun. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. "Tell me the truth. You still about what? About why you married me?" His jaw tightened. "Emma, don't lie to me, Liam," she cried, her voice breaking. "Was it about my father? Was this all just revenge?" The silence stretched long enough to hurt. Finally, he said it, the truth she already knew. Yes, the word shattered her. Her chest rose and felt, tears streaking down her cheeks. "So, I was just a punishment?" He stepped forward, desperate, but she backed away. "At first," he said, his voice raw. "Yes, but then you changed everything. You made me remember what it felt like to care again." Emma shook her head. "You used me. You looked at me every night knowing why you brought me here." "Emma, please." She didn't wait. She turned, tears blurring her vision. "Don't follow me," she whispered and walked out before he could stop her. The door closed with a quiet finality that felt louder than any scream. For the first time, Liam Hunter, the man who owned everything, realized what it meant to lose something he couldn't buy back. The cabin sat on the edge of a forgotten lake, wrapped in fog and silence. Emma had been there for 3 days. No phone, no security, no trace of her old life. Only the quiet hum of the rain on the roof and the ache in her chest that refused to fade. She thought she'd escaped him until she heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Her heart froze. She stepped to the window, and there he was, tall, drenched, determined. Liam, he got out of the car and didn't hesitate. No umbrella, no hesitation, just raw purpose in his stride. By the time she opened the door, he was standing in the rain, eyes locked on hers like he'd crossed 1,000 miles to find her. "Don't," she whispered. "You shouldn't be here." "I had to be." His voice was rough, strained. "You ran from me, Emma. You gave me a reason to," she said, hugging her arms around herself. "You lied. You used me." He stepped closer, rain sliding down his face, his suit soaked through. "I used your father, not you." "But then you," his voice cracked, his control slipping. "You changed everything. I didn't plan to fall in love with you." Emma's throat tightened. "Don't say that." "It's the truth," he said. "You think I care about revenge anymore. I'd burn every contract I've ever signed if it meant keeping you." She shook her head, tears mingling with the rain. "You don't get to decide that for me, Liam. You broke something in me." He moved closer, voice trembling now. "Then let me fix it, please." She looked up, and for the first time, she saw the man beneath the power, the one who was terrified of losing her, not because she was his wife by law, but because she had become his only peace. The storm raged around them as he whispered, "You can't run from me, Emma. Not because I own you, but because you own me." Something in her broke then, not from pain, but from the truth in his voice. She didn't reach for him, but she didn't turn away either. And as the rain poured down, their silence said everything words couldn't. That love once awakened couldn't be undone. The storm didn't stop that night. It howled through the trees, shaking the windows of the cabin, while thunder rolled like a heartbeat. Emma sat by the fire wrapped in a blanket, staring into the flickering flames. Liam stood at the doorway watching her, not as a man demanding forgiveness, but as one quietly begging for it. "I shouldn't have come here," he said at last voice, "but I couldn't sleep knowing you hated me." Emma looked up, eyes tired, but soft. "I don't hate you, Liam. I just don't know how to love someone I can't trust." He stepped closer, the light catching the sorrow in his eyes. "Then let me earn it back. No contracts, no power, just me." The rain droomed on the roof, steady and relentless, like the sound of two hearts learning to beat in rhythm again. "I wanted to destroy your father," Liam admitted, kneeling in front of her. "But instead, I destroyed myself the moment I fell for you. Every time I saw you smile, it chipped away at the anger I'd built my whole life on." Emma's throat etched with unshed tears. "You hurt me, Liam, I know." His hand hovered near hers, not daring to touch. "And I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can do better." For a moment, there was only the fire between them, orange light, flickering shadows, and silence heavy with everything unspoken. Then Emma reached out and took his hand. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was. Beginning, Liam looked at her like he was seeing sunlight after years of darkness. "You're everything I never thought I could have," he whispered. Her voice trembled, then stopped fighting it. He nodded, slowly pulling her closer, his forehead resting against hers. The world outside was chaos, wind, thunder, rain, but inside there was peace. A fragile, beautiful peace that neither of them dared to break. When she finally whispered, "Don't let go," he answered softly, "Never." And in that moment, surrounded by firelight and forgiveness, Emma knew she wasn't surrendering to him. She was surrendering with him. 6 months later, the world looked different. The skyscrapers still touched the clouds, the city still buzzed with power and ambition, but inside the penthouse that once felt like a cage, there was laughter, sunlight, and something Liam Hunter had never known before: peace. Emma moved through the kitchen barefoot, humming softly as morning light poured through the glass walls. Her belly, softly rounded beneath her robe, caught the glow like a secret made visible. Liam entered quietly, still in his white shirt and rolled-up sleeves, holding 2 cups of coffee. He paused for a moment, just watching her, the woman who had turned his empire into a home. When she noticed him, she smiled. "You're staring again." "I know," he said, handing her the cup. "Can you blame me?" She laughed, the sound soft and warm. "You used to look at me like I was something you wanted to control. And now you look at me like I'm something you're afraid to lose." He set the cup down, and took her hands in his. "That's because I am." She met his gaze, seeing not the ruthless billionaire, but the man beneath, the one who'd fought his demons and learned how to love. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "You let me breathe. And you gave me something to live for." The baby kicked and Emma gasped, smiling. Liam dropped to his knees instantly, both hands over her stomach. His eyes shone with awe. "He's strong, like his father," she said softly. Liam pressed his lips against her belly. "Like his mother," he murmured. They stood there wrapped in quiet joy as the city moved on without them, unaware that somewhere high above it, a man who once believed in revenge had chosen love instead. That evening, as the sun set over the skyline, Liam surprised her with a new ring, a simple gold band this time, the first one. "Bound us by contract," he said. "This one binds us by choice." Tears filled her eyes as he slipped it on her finger. "Forever." He smiled, that rare, unguarded smile only she ever saw. "Forever, Mrs. Hunter." And when he kissed her, the world outside disappeared, leaving only love, warmth, and a promise that even the coldest hearts could find their way